Netflix is bringing Princess Diana back as a ghost in the next series of The Crown. Is it true or is it false?
Oh, yeah. Do you know what? As soon as they announced they were bringing the next season of The Crown was on, I was like, are we going to have this debate again? Well, we have to explain to people that The Crown isn't real. That it might have real people in it, and it might be based on real events, but it's a TV drama. It's not real.
No, actually, Pete,
so
you don't believe in
I'm not sure.
No.
Do you know something, Pete? I don't agree. I actually think that this TV show is presented as something that's going to teach you something about history.
It is.
So
I'd have to disagree with you. I don't think it is. I think it's like the same people that are surprised that Titanic is based on a real story. It's like, oh, don't give me spoilers.
Stop for a second. If you've not seen it, look away now. It sinks. It sinks. It sinks.
Can I just say, though, that the early episode, the first couple of series of The Crown, I did feel historically accurate to me and was very respectful of the Queen. And then the last series, they were really having a go at her.
Sorry. The thing is that you say that now for the generation that have lived through the whole thing.
Yeah.
But actually, generations that didn't live through that, the young generation now, are going to think, actually, this is probably a portrayal of actually what happened.
Yeah.
In the way that it happened. And there's a risk of that. It's like...
Yeah, but hang on a second. Henry, you've got the Order of the British Empire officer class.
I might be biased.
Officer class. Right. Now, I don't know if you're legally entitled.
I know.
I don't know if you're legally entitled to take a sword and vanquish the enemy, but I think you should do that.
What, vanquish the enemy?
Defend the honour.
Happy to.
No, but I actually...
Well, I am trying to defend the honour of the royal family.
Has Netflix decided to have Diana's ghost on the new epic series of The Crown?
I'm going to say they have, yeah. I'm going to say this is true.
It's absolutely true! Henry, I've got to be honest with you. I think this is going to be relatively easy for you, but here we go.
Don't count on it.
Look, take it seriously, pal. We're only here an hour. Right, come on. Judges in England and Wales have been told not to jail criminals because the prisons are full. Is it true? Or is it like before I ask you if it's true or false, pad it out a bit.
Okay. Yeah, how? Yeah, it's true.
I'll tell you what I'm going to...
prisons are full.
I'll tell you what I'm going to ask you on the serious note is, what on earth is going on with the criminal justice system?
Well, we could reverse it, couldn't we? We could put the judges in the prisons.
All right, keep it light. Keep it light. It's Saturday night, pal. Right, calm down.
It's years of lack of investment, not just in criminal justice, but in probation, in policing, in our immigration service. All of these things have been cut to the bone since 2010. And I know somebody who's going through a family court thing at the moment, and they are going through the anxiety, the stress, and I don't want to be too serious, but it is a serious topic. There are people out there going through absolute mental hell because their cases are being heard by different judges who are not read in or briefed on the case. They're asking the people who are arguing what the situation is. Where are we with this case? It's absolutely, it's criminal that it's that bad.
Well, actually, I'm happy...
shocked by it. Sorry,
I'm happy...
No,
I'm happy to throw to you. But when you say, can I say something about the family court? The answer is almost certainly not.
That's sort of my point. But the other thing that's horrible about the family court is that in a normal court, you need to have a certain amount of evidence. You need to be able to back up that evidence. The stuff that's thrown around in the family court and the evidential balance requirement is so much lower, and it's an actual travesty. I think it really, really is.
I'll tell you what I don't understand. I'm going to put this to you, Lord Monckton. We're talking about potentially sending criminals to Estonia. Why not just cancel the Ryanair flight on a Saturday or a Sunday, right? Because then you wouldn't have to bring them back to convict them and throw them back out again.
When I was the government, when I was in government...
oh, he's a show-off. Do you know what? It's not enough to be a Viscount, is it?
There were 40,000 people in prison in Britain. Now it's 80,000. Now, has the country become naughtier to that degree since Margaret Thatcher left? In which case, what we need is a tough woman Prime Minister to keep everybody in order, and then there'll be fewer people going to prison.
I've got to be honest with you. The great. I always thought that Theresa May did something brilliant.
No, you said
for-
tough woman.
No. Honestly, she did something great for women's rights. She proved that being a woman was neither a bar nor actually an advantage in being Prime Minister because she was awful and Margaret Thatcher was great. So on average, they were kind of normal, weren't they?
Can I just talk about the prison situation, though? Because I know we've touched on it before, and you are right. It's about 88,000 people we have in prison at the moment. And one of the things the government is looking at doing is deporting foreign national prisoners.
Well,
and
yes.
they take up about 1 in 9. It's about 10,000 foreign national prisoners. They're mainly from Albania and those kind of countries around there. Surprisingly, Romania's one as well. But,
Albania and those sorts of countries around there. What I love about it is the level of analysis. The level of analysis.
I know what they're doing. But no, anyway.
historical.
So the current rule is
Countries around there.
Far away countries of which we know little.
I'm trying to make a sense.
I think you should write for Newsweek. I really do. I really do.
Anyway, as I was saying, the current rule is that if you are sentenced to a prison sentence for longer than 12 months, you are eligible for deportation. What the government wants to do is extend that to 18 months. What people don't realise is that these prisoners actually cost the taxpayer £500 million a year. It's incredible amounts of money. And we have to have a serious conversation about it. I mean, we've got 2 prisons that are specifically built for foreign national prisoners.
And how ungrateful of them as well to come here and then commit offence.
Well,
Yeah, you're getting a decent dinner.
Yeah, well this is
I'll
part of the
tell you what I
conversation.
heard. I'll tell you what I heard, and I'm not joking. On my radio show, we had the Police and Crime Commissioner for the Thames Valley, Matthew Barber, and he said, unbelievably, within the Thames Valley area, there is one of these prisons for foreign criminals. When you are released and supposed to be deported, you're supposed to go and phone the Home Office in order to send a vehicle to deport you. Now, look. I'm not.
Many of those
I don't
calls
mean.
get made?
I don't mean to be rude,
Is this
and
a
I
true
don't
or
mean
false
to.
Yeah. No, it's incredible because the former head of Maidstone Prison, which is one of these foreign national prisons, she resigned a few weeks ago. I think it might have been a month now. But she basically made this argument about the deportation process being absolutely chaotic, slow. And I go back to what you said, Henry. They've just gutted this system because they needed to make cuts and not realise that the entire thing has crumbled around it. And this is the problem that we've got ourselves into because, yet again, nobody thought any further than the end of their nose. This was short-term politics and we're now living through the consequences of it.
The other problem with it is if you let them in from France, then the rules under the international treaties for refugees are that you send them back to France. France is a safe country as far as we're concerned. And they're not allowed to come from a safe country to claim asylum here. So you send them back.
But it's
where
very,
they
but
came
it's
from.
very easy for you to say that, and very easy for me to say that, and it sounds sensible. But we have a whole legal profession obsessed with subverting the law by torturous and vexatious claims.
Yeah, but you don't let them put a foot ashore, then the lawyers can't get it.
That's the thing.
Tony Abbott told me what he did when he was Prime Minister of Australia, because they had boats coming down from Indonesia.
Yes.
Soon as it started, he sent in the Navy, and the moment they crossed the median line, the Navy came in, took them all off the boat, checked that there were no devices to make the boat sink, refueled it with just enough fuel to get them back where they came from, put them back in the boat and said, you go back where you came from. If any of you reappear, your boat will be shot out of the water.
And you said to him, oh, you old softy.
and he never had to shoot anybody. But within 3 weeks, they'd stopped the boat.
However, Henry, I'm going to put this to you, and I know you know what I'm going to say. Look, I mean, it's a very different proposition, Australia to the English Channel, isn't it?
It is, unfortunately. I mean, the principle of being robust about this, 100% agree with. The reality, though, is that you can't stop the sort of boats that we've got coming across the channel without putting lives seriously at risk. The thing over the Australians had, and in fact that the Italians have had back sort of 20 years ago, was that the vessels bringing these people over were far, far more robust. And indeed, in the Mediterranean, they're a lot more robust. And I would say that actually in the Mediterranean, that sort of approach could be employed. But we.
Sorry to interrupt you, Henry. And look, I've got a lot of respect for your opinions, but why not just sit there and go, no, in the middle of the English Channel, just turn them round?
Because I think you are talking about I don't want to be too dry, particularly on this programme, but you've got international laws that are putting all the responsibility not on government policy or government ministers, but vessel skippers.
Yeah.
So it's the actual captain of the border force vessel. It's not the home. He can't say, well, I was ordered to do it. I'm sorry, that doesn't get you off the hook. You made the operational decision.
Well, here's what I would do.
But well,
You'd get them out. You'd get them out of their silly little plastic boats, and you'd give them a real boat. And sail them back to France.
Easier option.
And then there's a decent boat they can go back.
There's a much easier option.
I mean, I'm not being funny, Lord Monckton.
Yeah.
But that might be an expensive proposition, which is
It's an awful lot cheaper.
No, every single group, we trade their dinghy for a yacht.
I tell you what I would do.
One of the largest country houses in our area.
Is owned by you.
No. If only.
You sold it.
The owner was rung up by the Home Office 3 or 4 years ago, and they said, we would like you to leave your house for the next 10 years, and we will pay you £1 million a year if you do.
Wow.
And we're going to fill your house with illegal immigrants. And we will staff it and make sure that they don't smash it up too much, but you'll have £1 million a year to make good with it. Now, you can imagine that the moment somebody says yes to that, he very sensibly said no, but there are quite a few who have said yes, and there are illegal immigrants living in castles and country houses all over, and the moment they move in, they go straight to the telephone and they say, boy, if you come to Britain, they'll put you up in a palace.
I just want to pull everyone up and just throw to you, Henry, because you are an expert on this subject. What on earth are we doing, and what should we be doing?
There's a whole raft of things, but specifically with those boats in the Channel, once they've left the French coast, and I think there's an awful lot we can do that we haven't done to stop them leaving the French coast or even getting to the French coast. But if you put a landing craft out there, and this is something that the military do occasionally with special forces and so on, and you can lower the ramp and you can drive a dinghy into it. Likewise, you can foul the engine of a dinghy perfectly safely, scoop the thing up, and I would call the French and the European Union, I would call their bluff, and I would drive that landing craft to France, put them on the beach, right, get out.
I love that. But it's not strictly relevant to the question. I want to congratulate you.
It's something that could be good
Do you know what I loved about what Henry did? And what I loved about Henry was he managed to weave his material into even though it wasn't strictly relevant. Do you know what the
what's the question?
Yeah, OK. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll remind you of all of the questions. The question is, have judges in England and Wales been told not to jail criminals?
Sadly.
Is it true or is it false?
Sadly, it's true.
It's absolutely true! I can't believe I'm asking you this.
Is it going to be good?
The questions are just in order. Right, I don't know why I'm bothering yet. Waste of time. OK. The pop star Will Young. I mean, is there any point in you continuing this book?
Not really, no.
OK. I'll tell you what we should do. Let's just have a laugh.
Don't ask me.
Okay.
The pop star Will Young has threatened to leave the country if the Conservatives win the next election on the grounds of discrimination. So I'll tell you what we should do, Lord Monckton. Let's do the basics. Do you know who he is?
No.
Do you know what his complaints are?
No.
Do you believe the Conservatives will win the next election?
It's very interesting. I was talking to John Bolton, no relation, who was the head of the Beaconsfield constituency for 40 years.
Yep.
He's done more door knocking than anybody else on earth. And he knows the mind of the electorate better than anybody else. And I said to him, look, supposing that in good conscience, Rishi Sunak could go a step further than he did on the climate rubbish and say, actually, we're not playing with any of this anymore. We're pulling out of all these treaties. We're not doing it because they got the science wrong. They got the economics wrong. The whole thing's pointless. And so we're not going to take away your proper cars. We're not going to make you drive electric buggies everywhere. We're going to let you keep your fireplaces and boilers and so forth. That, I said, supposing he could do that in good conscience, if we could convince him that they really have screwed up on the science, what would happen? And he said, well, of course, the fanatics will not vote for you, but they won't vote for you anyway. But he said, everybody else will. He said, you've no idea how frightened ordinary folk are of the cost of just turning on a light these days. Let me
put
and so
this.
he said that if that is the one policy, he said, that if they would do that, they'd win the next election by a country mile.
Well,
that was his phrase.
I just wanted to put this to Lois, actually, because Lois is, believe it or not, a former Labour PR person, aren't you? Under Blair. Okay. Under Blair.
Under Blair, but he was pretty conservative anyway.
It's no excuse.
Okay. Right.
But my question to you is this. Look, I think there's a lot of polling now out that says that if the Conservatives talk to the base, if they support low taxes, if they support Brexit, if they do all the things that Lord Monckton was talking about on net zero, they'll win. Do you, as a political operative, believe they're going to do that?
I think that everyone was quite surprised by Rishi Sunak's rollback on the 2030 bans on the cars and pushing it back to 2035 and everything. So potentially, yes. I mean, all the polling showed that Lord Monckton's completely right. 62% of those expressed an opinion in a recent Car 26 YouGov poll said that people want a net zero referendum. So, you know, people aren't happy with it. So, yes, I think it is possible.
I'll tell you what I don't understand, Henry, is this. I don't understand the way that there are so many people railing against, you know, the Labour Party establishment now who hate their own voters, first political party ever to sack their own voters. But then the Conservative Party, who are now, you know, the enemy of conservatism. I mean, you've been a leader of a small Conservative Party, right? And actually, do you know, I've always agreed with your policies. What I don't understand is why it needs to exist. Why can't the Conservatives and Labour actually stand up for their own principles?
Yeah.
Well, because to a large extent, they don't know what they're standing up for. The Conservative Party is, as they keep saying, a broad church. It's got liberals. I mean, there's the Tory Reform Group. On their website, it says, we are the home of liberals in the Conservative Party. Yeah. There's around about 100 MPs, Tory MPs, who are part of that. How can you convince the British people that you are a Conservative government when you've got that sort of thing going on? You can't. And I think Lord Monckton is absolutely correct. I think net zero, row back on that even further, actually demonstrate practically, stop talking about it, do it, that you can reduce the boats. And I think, indeed, if you demonstrate the credibility that the Conservative Party would need to win the next election, I think it's possible. Will they do it? I doubt it.
Pete, we have a laugh on a Saturday night, but let's be clear. These two, Bolton and Monckton, great guys, but they're pariahs.
Oh, yeah.
For the Conservative
Thank you very much.
Party. They are.
It's personal abuse. It's extra.
No, I'm being totally honest.
It's the editor saying
Well,
say that.
Yes, I will accept the cheque. It's Rishi Sunak. Well, I said they were pariahs, and you weren't very happy. Pariahs in the Conservative Party. Well, I didn't know she did that. Anyway, thank you very much. That's Rishi Sunak. When I said pariahs in a Conservative Party that doesn't support conservatism.
Yes.
And so I listen to somebody who's been an advisor to Margaret Thatcher, the most successful peacetime Prime Minister the Conservative Party's ever had.
They keep me very much at arm's length now. For instance, I was sitting next to...
Yes. Arm's length. If they could kidnap you and post you to Siberia, they would literally do that.
Yes, they were thinking of sending me to Rwanda. But
well, they couldn't organise a plane.
No, they couldn't organise a plane.
Or envoy.
No, but this very stupid Tory MP for somewhere in the Shires. I can't even remember his name or where he was MP for. He was so undistinguished. But I said to him, look, if you want to win the election, just ditch all this net zero rubbish because it's all based on a scientific mistake. He said, well, what do you know about it? I said, I have written more peer-reviewed scientific papers on the climate question than all the other members of both houses of Parliament added together. I'm your ranking expert, mate. X and unknown.
No. We've got to. No, I'm sorry. We've got to stop you there.
Yeah.
When you say I've written lots of peer reviews,
yeah.
Given that you are a peer,
doesn't
that just mean you go have a read of that? Yeah, looks all right to me, son. Looks all right to me, son. No, but the reality is, some scientists do disagree with you. What annoys me is the way that everybody in politics has the same narrative. Yeah. You know, it doesn't... I don't know whether you're right or wrong in the things that you say.
Yes, you do. I'm right in your heart of hearts.
All right, stop it, son. Stop it.
Andre, do you think that our members of Parliament, on average, are really bright enough and hard-working enough to actually read everything that's put in front of them and they vote on.
Henry, I'll give you the honest answer to this, and I think Lord Monckton already knows what the answer is. I've often lamented the way that votes are done in Parliament. Now, lots of people watching and listening are going to think what they're told, which is you read through the legislation, you decide what. Actually, what happens is the bell goes off, you get a text message saying vote yes or vote no, and you go through the lobby and vote yes or vote no. But here's the big problem. If these people in Parliament were given the time to scrutinise the legislation, they'd still be too thick to do it.
Well, of course they would, because if you take the energy bill, for instance, it's 428 pages of anti-free market regulations. It's effectively saying we are closing down the free market, we're closing down capitalism, we're going to be a communist country. And this is brought forward by a supposedly conservative government.
But nobody reads it. Sorry, I'm going to move on.
And it allows bureaucrats and ministers to invent new criminal offences, so you'll fill another whole lot of...
Let me ask you that. Well, let me ask you this
previously,
question.
a criminal offence could only be made by an Act of Parliament, naming the offence, describing it and setting the penalty for it. Now, ministers and civil servants on their own, it's mentioned 120 times in this bill, the word offence. And the fact that I'm saying to you that this climate scam is based on a strikingly elementary error of physics, it is true, but I will not be allowed to say that if that bill gets royal assent.
I've got to be honest with you. I'm a political commentator, not a scientist, but I lament the idea of the refusal to debate science. I honestly don't know whether you're right or wrong. I don't care. The prohibition of you being able to say what you say is absolutely crazy.
That Was the Woke That Was continues after the break. Welcome back to That Was the Woke That Was.
The University of Westminster have banned the term Homo sapien on the grounds it might be discriminatory to bisexual and transsexual people.
Ban the word Homo sapien. What? Because it might be offensive to, Iron Age man.
Just
What's the
one
name
moment.
of?
Can we correct the Latin here?
I was just about to say this.
It's Homo sapiens with an S on the end.
Yeah.
Oh, see, there you
Right,
go.
so Lois, your question, no, we'll do it. Your question is, the University of Westminster has banned the term Homo sapiens on the grounds it might offend bisexuals and transsexuals.
Well,
I still pronounce it wrong.
I'd say that it'd probably be only offensive to prehistoric man, who are the only non-Homo...
Homo erectus.
Yeah. Really? Wait.
It's a type...
Andre.
You would think of that one, wouldn't you?
It is a type of human.
What's the name of the other prehistoric man? My brain-
Neanderthal.
Neanderthal,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Well, it's not my fault, is it? Yeah, it's David Attenborough. What, Boatface sank? Well, that's life, isn't it? Thank you very much.
So you were saying Homo erectus. Tell me more.
David Attenborough actually didn't talk about Homo erectus. He literally said, and I wrote it down, I hate Monckton. I hate Monckton. I hate him. I hate him.
I would say, going back to the question, that that would be unbelievable if it was true. Absolutely unbelievable, because Homo sapien is just a descriptive term for us, for humans, isn't it?
Well, it might be a description of you. It's not a description of me.
That's
I'm a Neanderthal.
Are we saying that Homo erectus is a better description?
Right, stop. No, stop.
Once Andre is speechless.
I know, yeah.
Is it true, Lois? Say nothing. Is it true or is it false?
But you're not saying.
Leave my Homo erectus alone. True.
It's absolutely false.
Oh, for God's sake!
Right, I have to say to you, I'm terrified about this next bit. And I'll tell you why I'm terrified about this next bit, because last time Lord Monckton was on, Jeremy Kyle walked up to me afterwards and said, what went on in the studio? And I had to say, in all honesty, a lord has just wrestled a rabbit to the floor and broken the camera on the way down. Now,
it's got sort of it reminds me of the Holy Grail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
That's true.
you remind me of Elmer Fudd. But, he's
Just
like-
saying insults on this.
What is that about? What is that about?
He's been holding on to that for a long
no. Do you know why I don't like you? Because the name Bolton.
No, you're not doing yourself.
No,
any favours.
the name Bolton suggests you might be from Bolton. Right? We've already got a
Suggest
Wigan.
wrongly.
We've already got a Wigan. We can't have a Boltoner as well. Anyway, God, I can't believe I
Are
did
you
that.
saying that?
No, I can't either.
Are you saying that
Well,
Peter
well,
is from Barnes?
Oh, the number of times I've been told, wouldn't it be funny if you lived in Barnes?
Yes, it would be funny because it cost about 5 times the price of your actual house. Okay, so the prize this is getting worse. The prize this week is actually a framed poster of the following picture. It is, of course, for those of you watching at home.
That's me.
She sounds excited. It is a hairy-chested picture Pete.
You know Pete isn't old enough for me.
Pete.
I know, yeah. Oh, well, you're old enough.
Pete, what was the thought process?
I don't know. We go to the gym. Why not?
What, sorry, that was that before or after?
Oh, you. Hey,
Okay.
on this side of the table.
You get the poster and you get it framed, but the person who knows the scores is the woke wabbit. Okay, so were you upset about the ghost of Diana appearing on The Crown?
I don't really have many strong opinions on Diana. I
Well,
mean,
we'll find one, son. We're paying you.
she was the people's princess, wasn't she? She was like the best thing ever. Everyone seems to love her.
She was like a candle in the wind.
I suppose so. Do I believe in? I've never really seen one. I don't think so.
You don't believe
Well,
in
there we go.
ghosts?
Should I?
Yeah.
Why?
There's one behind you.
Well, I'll be totally honest with you. If he performs like that again next time, the Grim Reaper will be. Anyway, Lloyds Bank are offering free counselling to staff upset by rude language at the Conservative Party conference. Is it true or is it false?
Oh, sadly, I know this to be true. I read this story.
You are.
But I know, I'm not even kidding.
Hang on. You are the only person on TV who said, I know this to be true. Since Darth Vader.
I am your father.
I mean, come on. Now, Pete. Now, Pete.
Statesmanlike.
Now, Pete, I know you're a bit right-wing, but quoting Darth Vader is expert level. Hey, I'll tell you one thing. I'll tell you one thing in defence of Darth Vader. He got a seat in the House of Lords, despite the fact he was born a slave and was disabled.
So let's talk about this Lloyd situation. So basically, this has all come from one of these kind of diversity and inclusion HR people, and it's like they're really concerned about the rhetoric and how everybody might be feeling about the kind of all the anti-LGBT stuff and all the rest of it. It's complete and utter nonsense. What's more concerning is what's happened after this story came out. Is the fact that the people who kind of went to the press and said, this is what's going on, have been silenced by Lloyds. They've basically been told to stop talking to the press about any of this stuff. That's the thing I find most insidious.
What I don't understand about that, Pete, so you've told me the story came out and then Lloyd's LGBTQ gang said it had to come in at.
Yeah, so basically it's all from one of the directors whose name is Sarah Underhill, and she's one of the, she's head of people or what, you know, one of these nonsense titles from one of these diversity groups.
What's her name again?
Sarah Underhill.
What's her name again, Pete? Sarah Underhill.
It's literally, it's all in the press and everything.
Pete, let's be honest. You'd love to be like director of people on like 200 grand a year. Just walking around going, you're a disgrace, you're a sexist, you're a disgrace.
You know what's really funny?
I'd love that.
What's really funny is that, you know, they're already concerned about the rhetoric coming from the Conservative Party conference. What they didn't realise was last week, Nigel Farage announced that he's banking with Lloyds. So, like, if they're concerned about the rhetoric, they've just allowed Nigel Farage to bank with them. I mean, you genuinely couldn't make this stuff up. It's staggering.
My favourite thing about the Nigel Farage banking thing was Coots Bank, which was on the Strand in London, had all these LGBT flags all over it. It came down overnight when Farage took to the telly. He got rid of that.
Much as I love Nigel, I thought it was quite interesting when he announced that the banking crisis is now over. Coots have paid me, and they've allowed me to open another account.
Now, Henry, I want you to think about this very carefully. In my ear, they've said to me, now, Henry, bear in mind, we do have lawyers. Have you got any funny stories about that? just make them up and make sure they're not defamatory.
I have, but I'm not telling you.
Do you know my favourite Nigel Farage story? I was working in the European Parliament, and on Place Luxembourg, Farage always used to sit outside, have a beer and have a cigarette, right? And you will remember there was a guy who used to play the accordion very badly. Right? And I said to him once, I said, come here. I said, how much is it for a song? He went, €5. So that's my Belgian voice.
I was going to say.
Was he in Beauty and the Beast?
No, he did hello.
That's my Belgian voice. And he said, €5. I went, how long does it go? 5 minutes. I said, I've got a very good friend of mine. He loves the accordion, but he doesn't like to admit it. Can you do the full 15 minutes? And Farage is sat there like that, having his fag and his pint. And the bloke comes over going, oh. He's going, okay, no, thank you. And in the end, he literally shouted at the bloke for about 8 minutes, F off. But the bloke went, he was sort of, The best thing about it was, Farage was chatting to Aaron Banks about a big donation. 15 minutes destroying it.
Do you know, I'm sorry, I'll bring it back to the question.
What was it? Pete, what was the question?
About Lloyd's Bank. Well, one thing I want to talk about is this diversity inclusion industry, because it is now an industry. Do you know, it's estimated to be worth about £9 billion here in the UK, $9 billion in the UK. And by 2030, it's estimated to be worth $24 billion. You want to know why woke won't go away? Somebody's making a lot of money out of this stuff. And that's the thing, that if we really want to challenge this stuff, we really want to get to grips with it, we have to start following the money and see who's pocketing this stuff.
And if you look at the NHS, here's one for everybody. Google now, because then they might change it otherwise, that National Leadership Academy. Part of the NHS. They run about a dozen different courses for different levels of leadership in the NHS. Their PowerPoint
Is it basically bad, very bad, and totally useless?
Well, this is why. Because they've got about 12 PowerPoint presentations for each of these courses on their website. You can look through them. The word leadership doesn't occur. There is nothing about what the role and purpose of the NHS is.
So what is on it?
Well, it's all about empathy, diversity.
No.
It's all about that. So you attract those sort of people into leadership, and then you reinforce their perceptions as to what leadership is.
Yeah.
And then we ask ourselves why there is no real leadership.
Well, I've said, but Henry,
not just the NHS. You look at education. You look at civil service.
But Henry, I've said this before. All of these quangos, the reason why they're dominated by the political left is the way the adverts are written. So they go, applications particularly welcome from. I had a very good friend of mine who built one of the most successful car dealerships in Britain. He was an engineer. He literally designed cars and then he started selling them. And, he applied to be a magistrate. And I said to him, why didn't you write first line? As the father of a disabled child, which was true. He said, because I don't want to exploit the fact that my son's disabled. I said, but you will never get through by saying, I've got expertise in this, I've got knowledge of that. You've got to start with, as a lesbian, I understand. That's what you have to do. But by the way, of course, my favourite story that I've often told people is this. I had a friend who got on the board of transport for London by being an oppressed group pedestrian.
Is that how you got the job? Because you put in there, I'm an oppressed lesbian.
Well, a very good friend of mine, his daughter, to get into university, said she was a lesbian, and she's not.
Yeah, that's right, actually. Yeah, well, he came close to the bone, didn't he? Yeah, he did, right. All right, I'll tell him. Basically, the discriminated against minority at TalkTV is people who are terrible at TV presenting, which is why they brought me in. So I'd just like to thank the bosses of TalkTV, hallelujah, for paying bad people. Okay, so let's get the answer. Yeah. Is Lloyd's Bank offering counselling to people offended by the Conservative Party conference?
They are. It's true.
It is absolutely true.
That was The Woke That Was, continues after the break.
Big opinions,
You can't be concerned about these people coming because that makes you a nasty racist.
big guests, and the big issues of the day. Join me, Julia Hartley-Brewer, every day at 1 p.m. when I'll be tackling the stories that affect real people's lives. These people were effectively, tried and convicted by the court of public opinion. When did we stop the presumption of innocence? Talk TV. If you're thinking about it, we're talking about it.
Welcome back to That Was the Woke That Was.
Misgendering somebody will become a criminal offence with a prison sentence of up to 2 years if Labour win the next election. Is it true or is it false?
I will not call, if I'm referring to you, I'm not going to say, hey, them, how are you today?
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. I will say you or I'll say Andre, and that's it. Okay, if I'm referring to you in some other sort of way, then I will, again, I'll use Andre to refer to.
I know. I loved
And
it.
if
Sorry,
somebody,
sorry. Do you know what I loved about that, Henry?
Anything else, and I'm misgendering them, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm going to.
Do you know what I loved about that, Henry?
There's
None
no
of
room
us
anyway.
know what the tenses are.
No,
If I'm talking to them in the third person projective.
I know. I was trying to find out.
But
My pronouns are his lordship, his lordship.
Right. But no, if
Yeah, they
I
didn't
will
keep
call
you, though.
people
They
what I
didn't keep
call
you.
them, and I don't mean to be offensive, but if it's wrong and some idiot writes a piece of legislation saying that I've called somebody by their wrong pronoun, then I'm sorry. Send me to jail.
But Henry,
I don't mean offence, but
Well, the great thing is they
on a
won't
serious
send you
note-
to, they won't send you to jail. There isn't
It's
enough
well
room.
full.
I mean, actually,
Miranda, yeah.
you know, in the notes it says, though not very likely. But actually, you said you don't mean to be offensive. I mean, neither do I, but like I am. So, so like, what happens? What happens?
Okay.
I mean, you know, I remember the other day I had a very pleasant conversation with a barman in a pub in London, and he went downstairs and then came back up with a plastic cup, poured my pint into it, and said, "You're leaving." Right? Now, I thought we'd had a pleasant conversation.
Yeah, just offended.
No, I was thrown out. But on the serious note, what about people like me who are just not going through life trying to offend people, but we do anyway?
Well,
Or
can I chime in on that?
Sorry, yeah.
Sorry, I'm just going to say, because the bit that the Labour Party want to bring in is to deliberately misgender and to deliberately what they call dead name. That's using a trans person's old name. And that the bit that they've got a problem with is, how are you going to prove that something is done deliberately and not accidentally?
what about convicted paedophiles that
Yeah.
change their names?
And this is the problem. It's a really nice kind of aren't we all nice to the trans community bit of legislation, but it makes absolutely no legal sense. It is incredibly Orwellian, and I can't see the general public.
But there
actually
is
being-
a way of getting even.
She goes on a bit, doesn't she? Sorry, he.
So the best ever become that.
What they didn't know, that Peterette had become Peter. All right, thanks. That's your mum. Okay.
No. What you can do is you can take the mickey. For instance, the BBC, the unspeakable BBC, has a list of about 100 different genders on its website. This is not enough. What we should do to bring this whole thing to a stop is invent lots and lots of new genders and then absolutely insist that every time some ghastly woke leftist calls us by anything other than some completely arbitrary, ludicrous name that we've thought up for ourselves, then we report him to the police. And the police will, in the end, get so fed up with this that they'll realise
And what
it's
we need to do is we need to stop these ludicrous titles like they, them, Viscount. Another ludicrous. I'm sorry, Lord Monkton, right?
No, you're
What is a
quite right,
What is a Viscount?
Because whenever I was in Scotland and about to make a speech, I'd be introduced, and will you now welcome the vacant Monkton?
The vacant. my favourite one was when Princess Diana's brother appeared on American TV and they went, "We're joined by Lord Spencer. Do you mind if I call you Earl?"
Yeah.
It's Earl Spencer, not Earl. But then again, I met a very nice gentleman who was American who went on holiday to Leeds, right? And I know that sounds insane. He went on holiday to Leeds, and when he checked into the hotel, they upgraded him to the presidential suite. His name was Earl Blackburn. And he said, after a few hours, I think it became very clear that I wasn't actually Lord Blackburn. I was just some bloke called Earl. But anyway.
But you know, much as though that might be good fun, I'm going to be really radical here and really dull and say, let's just bring in common sense again.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, everybody, I don't believe there's one single person in this country that actually believes any of this makes any sense. They know that there are two sexes, two genders, well, and even that's
But
getting
the one
confused
thing
now.
that always works with the left is making fun of them because they have no sense.
Oh,
of
they
humour.
don't.
No, they
They
don't.
don't.
And
That's why it
this-
works.
Yeah, and that's
That's
why
why
this
it
show
works.
is so it's
And that's why whenever some leftist starts wittering on at me about misgendering, I say, right, in future, my pronouns are His Lordship, His Lordship.
Yeah.
And
Can I just-
if you ever use anything else, I will report you to the police.
Yeah, I just
and
want
they
to-
very, very soon, they'll get bored of it.
Yeah.
Just really quickly, something you said there, Monkton, before about people reporting for this and you get reported for that and reported. Like you said, the police are just going to get to the point where they're going to have to turn around to the government and say, you're going to have to scrap this law.
Exactly.
Because it's just going to become
Yeah.
utterly
Or-
ridiculous.
No,
The
no,
way
I'm
it's going
sorry.
at the moment, they'll use it as an excuse
Oh,
not
yeah,
to deal with crime.
not to deal with
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
The,
very
the real danger, and we are
New Jersey doing that.
we are going to go to the answer, but the real danger, of course, is police who don't want to police. They just want to enforce some sort of state morality, and this
Yeah.
makes it easier. But anyway, have Labour proposed to make misgendering a criminal offence?
They have.
It is absolutely and unfortunately true.
Yeah, well,
Right, Lord Monkton,
we
you got asked a question previously about
Neil Young.
somebody you
No, Will Young.
Will Young.
Will Young.
Neil Young. Neil Young, he's great, him. Isn't he? Do you like Beyonce as well? Anyway.
A fabulous man the other day, Mike Reid.
Reid.
What a good man.
Okay, you will know something about this, and actually it's a really interesting subject for somebody with the political background that you have. A new poll has revealed that Nigel Farage has been voted the most popular leader of the Tories, even though he is not a leader of the Tories. Is it true or is it false?
Well, now, Nigel Farage would be unquestionably a better leader of the Tories than everyone except Winston Churchill or Margaret Thatcher. He would be superb
Yeah, I agree.
because he is actually a Conservative. And he's a middle-of-the-road Conservative. He's a sensible Conservative. He's not extreme. The left did their best to brand him extreme, and the more they tried that, the more they failed to do it. He has the most astonishing political judgment. He's really steered a very, very clever course. And just think that with virtually no seats ever in the British Parliament, UKIP achieved more than any other political party has ever achieved since the war.
Do you know, Lord Monkton? I met Nigel Farage, believe it or not, in the Wigan by-election in 1999 when he was, I'm not joking, he was, he was in a pub with a fag and a pint running the UKIP campaign, and I listened to him, and I swear to you, I've never agreed with a human being more than him. And then I said to him, and it was almost like Dragon's Den, do yourself a favour, don't give up the day job. I said to him, you cannot give up being a millionaire metal trader in order to get 300 votes for UKIP. How wrong I was.
Yeah. Well, he was brilliant. And without him, we couldn't have done it. I mean, it was really...
I agree.
The biggest impact that any one person has had.
I agree totally, and I think when the history books of all this are written, Nigel Farage's name are going to be front and centre, as will UKIP's. But UKIP and Nigel at the head of UKIP was fundamental in bringing about the referendum, and I believe its result. But I would, Nigel will probably forgive me for saying this, but, we have to be careful when we elect leaders because I feel there's a real lack of leadership in the House of Commons, and we have got used to a very low bar. And Nigel, I agree with everything you say, he would make a fabulous national leader if he does two things. Puts aside his own centre stage element to an extent.
Ego.
No politician can be expected to do
and puts a
that.
competent team around him, point one. And point two, pays some attention to detail. Nigel doesn't have a great deal of interest in detail in policy. But
that's for the policy wonks like me.
Hang on.
Put him in number 10, put me in as the head of the policy wonks, and all will be fine. I can he can do the governing.
Hang on. I want to ask Lois this as a serious question, because there's a lot of talk about what we do on earth with this Parliament. Clearly our members of Parliament are substandard. A lot of people like me are Conservatives and would want Nigel Farage to be leader. But I honestly think, Lois, we need a new generation, don't we?
Having gone to the Conservative Party conference a couple of weeks ago, and seen the reception that Nigel got from just literally walking around. I mean, he was the big draw. Everyone loved him. Everyone flocked around him. But going back to your point, young people. It was young Conservatives that were there, that were flocking around him like it was the Messiah.
You know the amazing thing about this, Lois. You know, my parents were obsessed with people like Winston Churchill and then later Margaret Thatcher. He is the superstar Conservative for younger people now.
Well,
and he's never actually been a Conservative politician.
Well, absolutely, but he's got that incredible thing that Winston Churchill and Margaret Thatcher had, that you appeal to business people on the right and working class people on the left. He appeals to both, and not many people do that, do they?
OK, well, that does bring us to the end of the quiz, and we do have to ask you, Lord Monckton, redeem your honour. Come on.
Right.
Do you believe that Nigel Farage is the most popular Conservative leader, despite not being a Conservative leader? Is it true or is it false?
The answer is it's true that he's the most popular, but it isn't true that that's what the survey found.
It is false! OK, so what is the score? Woke Wabbit!
Well, I really want the Pete poster, so I'm going to give myself 1,000,000 points, and no one else gets anything.
So the winner this week, and he didn't even compete, is the Woke Wabbit!
I really didn't want that picture.
What's that? There's a show coming up with Danielle Nichols and Andre Walker. The new show, The Late Night Phone-In. What a surprise! You've called me to tell me all about it. Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do now. I'm going to congratulate the Woke Wabbit. I'm going to throw these at Pete. And I'm going to say, until next week, goodbye.